Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and in this video I'm going to explain why I'm against trans rights. Now just a quick disclaimer, I'm not against trans people, and I'm not against trans people from having the same rights as everyone else. It is the additional rights or protections under the law especially created for trans people that I have issue with. The only way a right means anything to most activists is when it's enshrined as a law. This means that trans people would be treated differently under the law, and when a law treats people differently, it gives advantages to one group over another group. Basically, trans people would be more equal, and saying otherwise could get you in trouble. I must define the term trans. This term trans generally refers to people who are transgendered. The term transgendered once referred to those people who suffered from gender dysmorphia or gender identity disorder, which affects about 0.3% of the population. However, the term now has grown to include a broader, ever-growing group of people like non-cisgendered, twin-spirited, gender-fluid, gender non-binary, and whatever new term those on the progressive left come up with, creating special rules or legally defined rules for a non-defined group becomes, as an SJW would say, problematic. Even if these additional rights were created only for the individual group, it sets a precedent for all small groups to seek similar laws to protect them. This breaks down the whole point of creating rights and freedoms, which are usually applied equally to all members of a society. Some basic freedoms include all people should be treated as equal and free from discrimination. By creating special rights for special groups, then there is no equality. To make things worse, it overcomplicates the legal system and creates a hierarchy of specialness under the law. When laws become more complicated, it allows for those same laws to be abused. I'll go into this further. The question we need to ask ourselves is, do trans rights actually help trans people? According to the American Psychiatric Association, the publisher of the DSM-5, it states that gender nonconformity is not in itself a mental disorder. The critical element of gender dysmorphia is the presence of a clinically significant distress associated with the condition. It is this distress that will not get addressed if trans people become an accepted protected group. Currently, it is an accepted mental disorder that can be treated in cases of those who suffer from it. However, if the laws are created to force trans acceptance in the name of trans rights, then medical societies will be under pressure to make changes and no longer to consider it a disorder. The same thing happened in the past with gay rights and the DSM. In 1987, homosexuality was removed from the DSM. Before that time, homosexuality was considered a sexual deviation in the DSM. Gender dysmorphia could follow suit. Unlike in the case of homosexuality, there is a severe psychological stress created by the disorder. As a result, those suffering from its effects have suicide rates of around 41%. Studies show that the suicide rates have nothing to do with acceptance, but are associated with the disorder itself. So acceptance, which would promote changes to the DSM, could prevent the people who are suffering from gender dysmorphia from seeking or receiving the help they need. The biggest concern for me regarding trans rights or trans acceptance is the impact on children. Young children are nowadays being encouraged to believe that they are transgendered when most likely they are not. Children go through a natural curiosity state as they learn what it is to be a boy or girl. This developing sexual awareness in children can often be misunderstood by trans-accepting parents or doctors as if their child is transgendered. Generally, this phase happens in most children, and by puberty they grow out of it. If parents push this false diagnosis, then harm can be done to the child. It is this exact thing that happened in the case of Patrick Mitchell, who at age 12 began begging his mother to take estrogen hormones after doctors diagnosed him with gender dysmorphia. His mother helped him illegally get the hormone therapy, and it ended up stunting his natural development. This Australian schoolboy, only 2 years later, decided that he wasn't a girl, in fact, that he was just a boy, and he wanted to go back to being a boy. And now he is in the case of having to seek medical assistance to return to being a boy. To make things worse, new laws like Ontario's Bill 89 can allow the government to legally remove children from their families that refuse to accept their child's chosen gender identity. Basically, they're allowing young children to decide what their identity is when they probably don't know what that identity is, just as I stated earlier. Other laws, again in Ontario, like Bill C-16, push for trans rights one step further. Under its rules, if one insists upon using the wrong gender pronouns, then it would be considered an act of hate speech, and that person could be fined. A recent example of the effects of this law was seen in the case of Wilfrid Laurier University, when teaching assistant Lindsay Shepherd screened TV Ontario debate to illustrate the sometimes controversial politics of grammar. The video, an episode of The Agenda with Steve Paikin, included University of Toronto professor Jordan Peterson presenting his case against the use of gender pronouns. As a result, Lindsay Shepherd was disciplined for having shown the video in class. Lindsay Shepherd was disciplined for having shown this video and was told that the video was akin to showing a video of a Hitler speech. This is how giving special groups special rights can take away the rights of others. These same laws are under review in California and could be adopted there as well. These are the many reasons why I feel that it is a mistake to push for trans rights. A better approach is for common sense to prevail. Basic human rights and common courtesy should apply to everyone. We don't need to create legal legislation to enforce this. This has been Socially Triggered. I look forward to the comment section. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.